We will make America strong again. We will make America safe again. And we will make America great again. God bless you and good night. I love you.
Those are the proclamations that President Donald Trump promised. A commitment full of vigor, not just to America, but to every citizen who still believes that this country will become great. But if that future is truly brighter than ever, then why? Right in the heart of Los Angeles, once a symbol of the American dream, do we have to witness a reality like shattered glass, reflecting the brutal contrasts of a society fracturing day by day? More than 75,000 people without shelter huddle together in one of the wealthiest cities in America. The streets that once sparkled with colorful lights are now filled with tents, trash, and the hopeless gazes of those who once had families, jobs, and faith. No more dreams. Only a decaying paradise remains, drifting in a vortex of despair, where the weak always bear the heaviest burden. In today's video, let's lift the veil behind the glitz and glamour of Hollywood to look directly at the horrifying dark side of Los Angeles, where the California dream is cracking day by day. Watch until the end, because two of the things about to be revealed were once the strongest beliefs of the generations living in the 70s and 80s. And now they are collapsing before their eyes every day. There was a time when living in Los Angeles felt like walking through the most vibrant pages of the American dream. A dream filled with hope and promise. For those who grew up in the boomer generation, that memory is not just nostalgia, but also a part of their youth and flesh and blood. Do you still remember? The time when all you needed was a stable job. You could buy a house, support a family, and still have enough money to send your children to school, save a little for tomorrow. When houses were still affordable, neighbors knew each other's names. The atmosphere wasn't suffocated by traffic and despair, and every morning you woke up knowing you were living for something. Not just to survive, but to build a worthy future. People buy houses in Burbank with a bus driver's salary, open small shops in Inglewood, and send their children to public schools without worrying about tuition debt. And most importantly, they still hold on to hope, believing that if they try hard, both they and their children will have a better life. Believing that this society still operates under the law of fairness, that America will not abandon them. Los Angeles used to be the light at the end of the tunnel, a place to dream, to start anew, to settle down, to retire, a promised land to rest after a lifetime of dedication. But then, in a very quiet and ruthless way, something began to change. And how unfortunate it is when none of us truly recognize that terrifying change until it's too late. Los Angeles is now wearing a different face. No longer the city of lights and opportunities, no longer the picturesque beaches or the glitzy walk of fame in travel brochures. Instead, the scene in this city now resembles something out of a post-apocalyptic movie. The streets are filled with makeshift tents made of plastic tarps, the smell of garbage mingling with the scent of despair, along with the lost gazes of people who once had a home, once had a life like ours. According to the latest statistics, there are currently over 75,000 homeless people living in Los Angeles, a record high number, and there are still no signs of it stopping. But what is even more heartbreaking is that among them, there are more than 7,500 minors. The children do not have beds to sleep in, no nutritious meals to eat, no place to call home. They are not just a part of the statistics, they are a vivid warning about a city losing its own future. But those numbers still don't tell the whole story, because this is no longer just an issue to be solved, it has become a part of the landscape, like a new layer of skin covering the city. From Skid Row to Venice, from Echo Park to Hollywood, rows of tents have sprung up like an underground architecture, existing parallel to office buildings and upscale shopping areas. and if a city like Los Angeles can also fall, then is your city, the one you think is safe, really standing firm against this wave of homelessness crisis? Don't take your eyes off the video, because what shocks many people even more is that the faces of this social issue are teachers, nurses, Uber drivers, or even the friendly neighbor right next to your house. The homelessness crisis has come closer to you than you think. This crisis is no longer limited to long-term homeless individuals or those without income. It has infiltrated the middle class, who once had stable jobs, insurance, and were voters and taxpayers. But just one event occurs: job loss, illness, skyrocketing rent. And within a few months they fall from their homes to park benches. From a locked apartment to a dark corner of the street, where only rats and loneliness remain as companions. A single mother who used to be a nurse at a nursing home now lives in a makeshift tent in MacArthur Park. A retired teacher who once had a small house in Silver Lake now relies on public restrooms and food aid bags to get by. These are not strangers or someone different from us. They are us, only different in that life has pushed them off the safety line. The city is still trying to respond. A portion of the nearly $1.3 billion budget has been allocated this year for homelessness programs. But what people see is that tents are still popping up. The police still patrol every day. But sometimes even the security officers don't know what else to do except turn a blind eye. A retired LAPD officer once said in an interview, "Skid Row is not like typical crime areas. It is the collapse of a structure that no one dares to look directly at. There is no longer right or wrong. Only survival remains." Silence in this case is not a lack of responsibility, but rather an impotence in the face of a tsunami that is drowning everything: homes, dreams, social trust, and above all, humanity itself. What is most terrifying right now is not just the scale, but the speed. The homelessness situation in Los Angeles is no longer progressing year by year, but week by week. Every month, hundreds of new tents spring up. Public services are deteriorating, aging infrastructure. And amidst the massive concrete blocks of a city that was once the capital of technology and entertainment, people are gradually being pushed out of the very society they once built. You may not live in Los Angeles, but have you ever seen a street corner where images both strange and heartbreakingly familiar began to appear? A park lawn suddenly surrounded by makeshift tents. The neighbors who once chatted with you, the veterans who served the country, the librarians or teachers who once nurtured your children, now sit quietly on a street corner, struggling to survive each day. No one thought this would happen in Los Angeles, the place once seen as a symbol of opportunity, of the American dream. But it's happening, right there, before our eyes. If those who once had stable jobs, paid taxes, and lived like us, now have to sleep on the streets, what guarantees that we won't be the next? If Los Angeles were a map, there would be areas that people inadvertently or deliberately overlook when painting their dreams. There are areas whose names seem to have nothing in common. Now they are the dark spots slowly rotting in the heart of the City of Angels. Not just by conflict, but also by despair that has shape, smell, and a painful cry in the dead of night. Skid Row, just a few blocks away from the glamorous financial center of Los Angeles. But it feels like a different world. Just a few minutes' walk from the gleaming glass office buildings in downtown Los Angeles. But it feels like stepping into another world, one where the American dream has long been extinguished.
This is the worst Skid Row has ever been, and really without an end in sight.
More than 4,600 people are living cramped in tents and dilapidated vehicles. The streets are occupied as living spaces, sidewalks have become beds, and street corners are where people take care of personal needs due to the lack of safe public restrooms. The tarps that shield from sun and rain have become long-term shelters. But what is even more noteworthy is the absence of security. This area is hardly ever on the regular patrol route anymore. The dangers to safety, health, and mental well-being are all ignored as if they do not exist. Not only Skid Row, East Hollywood, once a dreamland, the backstage of the film capital, is also gradually sinking into despair. This place used to be a refuge for young artists, writers, and independent producers who lived on modest incomes but carried with them a lot of hope. They rented small apartments, worked serving during the day, and created at night. But in recent years, East Hollywood has gradually lost its poetic charm, and in its place are rows of tents, RVs, and tarps flapping along the 101 freeway. You can easily spot a man in his 60s polishing an old saxophone next to a cart filled with empty beer cans. He used to be a musician at parties in Beverly Hills, now living on a vacant lot near the train station. Surrounding him are people who once worked in the entertainment industry, in hospitals, or in restaurants, all now sharing a public water station and a streetlight that casts just enough light to avoid complete darkness. Skid Row or East Hollywood are not the only places sliding down into the abyss. They're just the clearest slices of a larger picture, where the cracks are no longer beneath the surface, but now manifest on every street. What makes everything more heartbreaking is the normalization of the abnormal. When insecurity becomes the foundation of a neighborhood, when the dream of art is traded for the daily struggle for survival, it is no longer just the story of Skid Row or East Hollywood, but a serious signal for all of Los Angeles, and beyond, for America. If these forgotten lands are growing within a city that was once a symbol of hope, then is there anywhere truly safe? Or are we just waiting for our street to become a new Skid Row?
They once wore uniforms, donned combat boots, and left their families to protect this country. But those heroes of America now have to live on the fringes of society, amidst the cold cracks of a city once called the City of Angels, in the midst of the bustling streets of Los Angeles. Amidst the sound of car horns and city lights, there are heart-wrenching makeshift shelters, the corners of supermarket walls, underpasses, grassy areas near medical centers, places that have now become the homes of thousands of American veterans. According to the latest report, Los Angeles has over 3,800 homeless veterans, one of the highest numbers in the country. But numbers are indifferent. The story behind it is what truly leaves us speechless. A man sits by the roadside near Skid Row, an old baseball cap with a Marine Corps logo. He once fought in the war. Now he lives off the spare change of passers-by. He recounted that he once had a home, a wife, and children, but after returning, the nightmares wouldn't let go. His job fell apart. And one day, he woke up with nowhere to go back to. That is not an isolated case. PTSD, untreated illnesses, post-service isolation are the chain reactions that many veterans face. Many people cannot rent a house even with VA vouchers, because the rental market in LA has become out of reach for even full-time workers, not to mention the hundreds of elderly people without relatives, living alone after their wives passed away. Their children moved out. Now it's just them and their past contributions. Those who once protected us from danger, now they are fighting a silent battle on their own, without smoke and fire, without comrades, without medals, only darkness, the night wind and oblivion. And if those who were once the pillars of this nation can be so easily discarded, then who among us will be next?
There are nights when the wind blows through the streets of Los Angeles, and one can see small figures huddled in old cars, cardboard boxes, or under makeshift shelters in Walmart parking lots. Not adults, they are children. No child deserves to grow up like that. But the reality in Los Angeles is harsh. More than 7,500 homeless children are living in uncertainty. most of whom still go to school, still try hard, but do not have a proper home to return to. For many older people, the memory of the economic downturn evokes a sense of deprivation. But at least back then, people could still have hope. Families still gathered together in difficult times. Simple dinners still filled with love. And now? The feeling of coldness was different. It was deeper, more silent, when seeing a child having to hold their younger sibling to sleep in the backseat of a dilapidated car. No laughter, no childhood, only the weariness of being old before their time. We often say, children are the future. We often say, children are the future. But where can a future be nurtured from if from the very beginning they have never had the opportunity to be themselves? But where can a future be nurtured from if from the very beginning they never had the chance to be themselves? Right in the heart of the city dubbed the paradise of the American dream, where people can spend millions to illuminate towering billboards, there are children growing up in darkness, not due to a lack of electricity, but because society has inadvertently extinguished their light. And then, a question that leaves us restless. If one day, our own children are the ones in that car, do we have the courage to call this the America they deserve to grow up in? America used to take pride in the huge numbers when it came to the social welfare budget. But in Los Angeles, when looking at the reality of the homelessness crisis, one can't help but wonder, where has all that money gone? The city of Los Angeles and LA County have spent over $1.28 billion on programs related to homelessness. Hundreds of millions of dollars have been allocated to shelter services, housing assistance, and rapid response teams. But the bitter paradox is, the number of homeless people has not decreased, but increased. The city of Los Angeles and LA County have spent over $1.28 billion on programs related to homelessness. Hundreds of millions of dollars have been allocated to shelter services, housing assistance, and rapid response teams. But the bitter paradox is, the number of homeless people has not decreased, but increased. The answer, according to many analysts, lies in a series of paradoxes and deep-seated administrative barriers, where good intentions are buried under layers of paperwork, bidding, inflated costs, and other issues. The construction of housing for the homeless, expected to be a long-term solution, has instead become a prime example of inefficiency. A permanent supportive housing unit in LA costs an average of over $550,000 per unit, with some exceeding $700,000. Almost the price of a luxury apartment. Worse yet, many projects are completed, but remain vacant. Due to a lack of operational personnel, a lack of transparent approval mechanisms, or complex regulations that make it inaccessible to those who truly need it. Some people who used to live on the streets reported that they had to wait more than 9 months to be approved for temporary housing centres. But during that time, many gave up, slipping deeper into an inescapable spiral of despair. We are not just witnessing a housing crisis, but a crisis in how society understands and treats the homeless. A portion of the budget is used to pay salaries to intermediary organisations, consulting units, pilot projects. But there is a lack of coordination between the parties, a lack of mechanisms to supervise actual results, and most importantly, a lack of listening to those who are living on the sidewalks. It cannot be denied that there are still heartfelt efforts from community organisations, some lawmakers and volunteers. But individual efforts cannot counteract systemic waste. We have spent billions of dollars, but not in the right places, not on the right people, and not at the right time. Instead of focusing on long-term solutions, a large portion of resources has been poured into short-term measures like clearing homeless camps, shuffling people from one place to another, without providing alternative housing options. Some areas like Venice, Skid Row and Echo Park were once cleared through heavy-handed campaigns. But a few weeks later, the homeless returned, in greater numbers and more desperate. From the perspective of ordinary citizens, especially those aged 55 and older who have paid taxes and built the city, the general feeling is one of deep disappointment. Not because they lack compassion, but because they feel the system is gradually leaving them behind. They see abandoned vacant lots, unused buildings, and projects dragging on year after year, while the elderly, children and veterans still have to sleep on cold concrete floors. The most paradoxical and heartbreaking thing is, we are spending money to maintain the crisis. In one of the wealthiest countries in the world, in a city dubbed the City of Angels, tens of thousands of people are being left behind, not due to a lack of money, but because money does not come with responsibility, transparency, and empathy. And if spending billions of dollars each year cannot provide them with a home, a warm bed, a chance to start over, then what is fundamentally wrong with the way this society defines the word help? If the past was the golden light of the California dream, then the present of Los Angeles is a picture smeared with streaks of cold grey. But what truly sends shivers down people's spines is not what is happening today, but the vague, dark feeling about what is to come. Do you feel that way? That this city, once a leader in America for culture, technology, and innovation, is gradually losing its ability to dream? Where will our future lead us if things continue like this? The population of Los Angeles is gradually falling into a state of silent division. Those with money are moving to the suburbs or leaving the state. Those who remain, especially the elderly and low-income workers, are trapped in a vicious cycle with no way out. Rising housing prices, wages that are not enough to live on, declining public services, and public safety as faint as the coastal fog in the early morning. And the younger generation, those who once placed their hopes in the City of Angels as a destination for startups or art, are gradually giving up. Many young people carrying their university degrees are leaving LA in search of a normal life elsewhere. Not necessarily wealth, just enough to live on, a home to return to, and still belonging to some community. The once bustling downtown areas on weekend nights are now sparsely populated. The stores are closing. Restaurants are reducing their hours due to staff shortages. Concerts, exhibitions, events, once the soul of Los Angeles, now struggle in the context of residents being cautious about safety and spending. The stifling atmosphere is no longer just an environmental issue. It is a collective psychological state. But the most painful thing is, we have become accustomed to this decline. Just like living next to train tracks for too long makes you no longer hear the whistle. The people of LA seem to have forced themselves to accept the presence of homeless camps, trash on the sidewalks, people moaning at night, and tired eyes begging for food in front of supermarkets. When the abnormal becomes normal, that is when hope begins to fade. From bus drivers who once supported entire families, to veterans who served in wars, from teachers, nurses, warehouse workers. Now many of them live in trucks or tents, not because they are lazy, but because the city no longer has room for them. Los Angeles did not collapse overnight. It shattered into tiny pieces, like the sound of a dream breaking that no one dares to name anymore. And if a city like LA, with all its resources, fame, ideal climate, artists, engineers, and cultural elite cannot protect its people, then is there anywhere in America truly safe for ordinary dreams? Los Angeles is no longer the city of glittering postcards or golden cinematic dreams. It is cracking day by day under the weight of those who have been forgotten, those who were once the core of this society. Children born in trucks. The veterans no longer have names. The workers who toil day and night but still can't afford rent. and a system continues to pour billions of dollars into plans that bring no hope. The problem no longer lies in the numbers, but it lies in the feeling that anyone could be the next. What do you think about the alarming homelessness crisis in Los Angeles? Please share your thoughts in the comments section. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support the channel and stay updated with our latest videos. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video. This video is created to analyze and reflect a real slice of life in Los Angeles, with the aim of sparking reflection and positive dialogue within the community. All information, images, and data are illustrative, cited from public and reliable sources. We do not hold any individual or organization responsible, nor do we draw absolute conclusions. Viewers are encouraged to approach the content with an open mind and to continue exploring from various perspectives.